We will now go to the gentleman from California, Representative Swalwell, for 5 minutes.
I thank the chair, and at the beginning of the hearing, Mr. Jordan alluded to threats that were made toward Judges Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and others, and I want to make it clear that and I believe most of my colleagues, have denounced any threats of violence that have been made to any judges, to any public officials. That's not how we conduct ourselves in this country. We enact the will of the people through voting, not through violence. But I do want to ask the ranking member, because he wants to have this conversation, will he, after tweeting this morning, a tweet that said, "The left attacks Justices Thomas and Alito because they're standing up for the rule of law, the Constitution, and freedom," will the ranking member denounce what the former president said last week when he said, "A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles of the Constitution"? So I will wait after my time is up to see if the ranking member endorses Donald Trump's call to terminate the Constitution, because the ranking member seems to have a high interest in protecting it, or if he will continue to be silent. And I think we should all conclude that his silence is complicity. And since we're on the topic of denouncing violence, will the ranking member also denounce the tweet that he put out praising Kanye West? He tweeted, "Kanye, period, Elon, period, Trump, period." Kanye went on after that tweet, of course, to say that he's going to declare a war on Jews, and also that he would go on to praise Hitler. And so I will wait again for the ranking member. Does he stand with Kanye and his hatred of Jews and love for Adolf Hitler, or will he denounce it? Again, we will wait to see, because the ranking member has a lot of opinions, Mr. Jordan, about what others should be denouncing. So we will wait to see what you can do. Moving on to Mr. Schenck. Mr. Schenck, thank you so much for coming forward today. Your testimony is important as Americans wonder if the Supreme Court can be independent and credible. And I have to ask you, for the sake of your own credibility, have you been paid by anyone for your testimony today?
No.
Have you been paid by anyone for the story that was printed in the New York Times about what you heard 8 years ago?
No, Congressman.
In fact, have you received threats, and including death threats, because of what you've said?
I don't know if they rise to death threats. They've certainly been quite menacing. Yes, I have received those kinds of threats, and it's been very costly for me, both for the current organization that I'm leading, for me personally, and most especially for the duress on my family.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that as someone who, receives the same types of threats and thinks about their family first. But I have to ask then, if you're not being paid for coming forward with this information, and you are suffering threats to yourself and your family and your personal finances, why did you come forward?
For 3 reasons, Congressman. One is I felt it was a moral obligation. Second, in this season of my life in ministry, I've made a new resolution that truth-telling should be at the core of everything that I do. And finally, I think it's in the best interests of the country. I think it's in the best interests of the court, where I spent 20 years and still have great respect for the institution and almost venerate it in a sense. But its integrity is critical to its success and role in our democracy. So those are the 3 principal reasons I'm here. There are more, but they haven't come without cost.
Thank you, Reverend. God bless you and your family as you come forward with the truth. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and I will sit here to see if Jim Jordan will address